Hey, thank you so much for joining us tonight, both in person and online. We are delighted to have you today. We're so excited to welcome Jyoti and Auyon Mukharji and their lovely new cookbook, Heartland Masala. Some notes before we begin. Today's event is possible because of your support. When you support Left Bank Books, your money stays right here in our local economy, so it keeps our streets paved and our parks green and everything else we love about St. Louis. It also helps get writers the support that they deserve. It is now more urgent than ever that voices have a place to come together and to be heard together. So we can only put on events like this with your support when you buy your books here. Come on in. So thank you so much for coming tonight and supporting our authors. Our special guests tonight are Jyoti and Auyon Mukharji. Jyoti is a chef, teacher, and retired physician who immigrated to the US from India in the 70s and began teaching weekly Indian cooking classes out of her home in Kansas 15 years ago. Her son, Auyon, is a musician, writer, and culinary historian who spends most of his time thinking about food. Their new book is Heartland Masala, which pairs 99 of Jyoti's recipes with cultural and historical essays written by Auyon. The result is an effervescent celebration of Indian cuisine and the American immigrant experience. Heartland Masala is a beautiful, playful, informative, and utterly original cookbook. And our conversation partner tonight is Jackie Price. Jackie is the owner of Fennel Cooking Studio here in town. Jackie created Fennel to inspire kitchen confidence and culinary community through cooking classes, community dinners, and more. Fennel offers a full calendar of hands-on cooking classes for the public, for private events, or even for your workplace. You can check them out at fennelstl.com. So please give a very warm welcome to all of our guests tonight and the book, Heartland Masala.
Thank you all for joining us. I'm really excited to be in conversation with you and hear a little bit more about your book. And I think we can really keep it casual. And I would love to ask you some questions and hear from all of you if you have questions as well. But I would love for you both to tell me a little bit about your journey into the kitchen and up to this point.
Sure. So I'm Jyoti. Thank you so much for coming. The audience is great. So I have been teaching for 15 years in my kitchen. I have never been to culinary school. I started teaching as a fluke because I used to donate to a charity. I'm sure all of you know about Head Start. And I was looking to do some philanthropic work, and I had a friend who was a board member at Head Start, and she said, "Come and look at this organization." So I went and checked it out and loved it, and so I started volunteering. A year later, I was asked to get on the board, and so 75% of the funding for Head Start comes from the federal government. 25% has to be raised by the board in volunteer hours, in fundraising, and in grant writing. So the year I joined the board, they used to do a golf tournament as a fundraiser, and they decided to add a silent auction to the fundraiser. So I decided to donate an Indian dinner for 8 at this fundraiser. And my class and my dinner sold, and it so happened that I did this for 4 years, and every year the same people would buy it. We'd raise the price, they'd buy it again. We'd raise the price, they'd buy it again. So the 4th year we were doing it, one of my friends from the board happened to be of Greek descent, and she said, "This is so much fun. I think I'm going to donate a Greek dinner next year." So she went and told the board member who used to run the auction that she wanted to donate a Greek dinner. So this board member came to me and she said, "Instead of doing 2 dinners, why don't you do a cooking class?" That was October of 2009 when my cooking class sold. And I did my first class with these people on February 6th, 2010. it was almost like I had achieved nirvana that day, because my passion to cook as a mother, we have 3 boys, and my passion to teach as a little girl, when I used to have neighborhood children and imaginary students that I was teaching all the time, they just came together, and it was like a dream come true. So my husband, who was hiding in the back, he probably saw this glow on my face, and he said, "Why don't you do this as a hobby?" I have no clue how I got my second, my third, my fourth group. And here I am, 15 years later, still teaching with a book that Auyon, our son, this is my middle son, and we've written a cookbook together. And would you like to guess how many people I might have had in the kitchen in the last 15 years that I've been teaching? And I do not advertise anywhere. I do not, I have no website. I have no social media presence. It is done, the cooking classes are in my home kitchen. And so the last 15 years, it has been the same venue. Would you like to make a guess? How many people you think I might have gotten in my kitchen? Any just wild guess?
2,000.
Okay,
15,000.
15. Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you.
500.
Okay. When I left home for this book tour on 2nd of September, it was 6,500 plus and counting. And this is with no advertisement at all. It's all word of mouth. And since 2019, I have become a not-for-profit. So I donate all my profits to local charities in the city that I patronize. And it has been just the most fascinating journey. So 3-4 years into my cooking classes, my students said that we'd we want you to write a cookbook. So, the media has always been very kind to me. So they kind of write articles about me, either in magazines, newspapers, whatever. So that is the way I kind of get advertised. It's like it builds on itself. So some of these journalists love to come to my class and then write the article themselves. And there are others who say, "Would you write for me and submit an article? We'd like to put it in such and such magazine." So that is when, now I love to teach, I love to talk, but I don't like to write. So Auyon, my son, he is the one who would do the ghostwriting for me. And so that is how so I asked Auyon when I was going to write a cookbook if he would help me. And he said,
I said yes, but I was not serious. I had no. My mother's a very difficult person to say no to, so I try to avoid doing it as much as possible. So I didn't say no. I said sure, and you have to first send me all the recipes that you need, that you want to put in the book. And I figured that was a high enough activation energy. We would never reach it. The book was never going to happen. At this point, my day job was as a musician, so I was touring also. So the prospect of putting together a cookbook with my mother while on the road, it just none of it made sense. So I said yes, but not really. And it took my mom like a year, probably a year and a half, to actually send me the recipes. But then once she did, it was too late. Like we were the frogs in boiling water situation, where just like the heat was slowly getting turned up and we were not getting up. So we just kept going. That's how that happened. And my mom's vision for the cookbook, she has a few friends in Kansas City who pump out like a book every year or 2 years. And it's just like, they're pretty, like her vision for ours was like spiral bound, a bunch of recipes she's already put together, not fully tested necessarily. Maybe some like mediocre to quite bad iPhone photos, like generally out of focus, stop between, and just like get that thing out, do it in like a year, year and a half tops, and then like do another one. But she was just like, all of a sudden we were going to become a cookbook factory. I deeply disappointed her on all of those fronts. It became clear early on that if we were going to make something that I was excited about, it was going to take a long time. I tend to move slowly generally. And also, I think I recognized that creating yet another cookbook of Indian recipes from an upper middle class kitchen in the US or UK was of zero interest to me. There are many lovely books in that genre, and enough lovely books in that genre. I had no need to add to it. So when thinking about what we could do, or what I could do that would sustain me through the process of writing the thing in general, I talked to a lot of friends and read a bunch of cookbook criticism, and eventually landed on history and context. So a lot like history and cultural context for these recipes, something that was broader than our family, basically. And that it ended up being a thing that I was very interested in, but also had no expertise in outside of liking to read Wikipedia. So I sort of undertook an independent study, basically, for the next several years on Indian culinary history, which was great and confusing to my mother, who again was assuming this would be pretty like slapdash and we'd get it done. And about 4 years into the book took us 8 years to make. About 4 years into the process, she started threatening her own death. She was and is in good health, but she was just like, I could die before this thing comes out, and which is true of anything. But when your mother does it, I don't think it actually sped anything up. What it did was stress us both out a lot. And I eventually finished my research because she also just didn't know exactly. It was very hard for me to describe what I was doing, partially because I didn't know exactly what I was doing. I just knew that I wanted to incorporate history and context into it. But the book that we ended up making, we're both very happy with, but is an atypical cookbook. So the backbone is made up of my mom's recipes. And then the headnotes, which are the pre-recipe blurbs, and in these standalone essays. So there are a bunch of illustrated mini essays, about 20 of them throughout the book, focus on history and context. So my mom has both of us are illustrated characters in the book too. My mom has a voice that is like, this is what growing up in India and teaching these classes was like. And a lot of my contribution is history nerd, just like adding in things that I thought were fascinating over the course of the study. And that's how we laid it on the book that we have.
Amazing. What a journey over 8 years.
Oh yeah.
Especially when you assumed it would take 1 year. Like, I have the recipes ready. Here we go. Let's publish it. How did you develop those recipes? So I know you teach cooking classes weekly, and how do you go about creating recipes?
They were most of them are the ones that were favorites in my classes.
Yeah.
And so 96 of those recipes are from my classes, and Auyon has 3 recipes in it.
3. 100%.
Are they noted in the book?
Oh yeah.
Which ones
Oh
are
yeah. Very proudly.
Which ones are yours?
I have 100% of the 2 cocktails in the book, and I have the very last recipe is a sesame jaggery brittle that I was making a lot while I was writing other things or writing a book.
Yeah.
But in terms of like when you're asking Jackie, you mean like how did we like pick the recipe? How do we curate the selection, or how did we write the recipes up in the first place?
Really
Both.
both. Yeah.
So the
So
Curation,
selection was
yeah.
easy because
Yeah.
it was
Favorites.
favorites of my classes. And
we
then
probably stuck to about like my mom sent me over 100, I think, and
I
probably
think
about
there
like,
were about
80 of
105 or
those.
106, and then we kind of
Culled.
discarded.
Yeah,
Yes.
and replaced. It was kind of with an eye to chapters. So once I decided that we were going to do relatively traditional chapters of just like, although Indian cooking in most of India is served all at once, we'd still split it up into like dals, lentils, and then meat dishes, vegetable dishes. And so once we decided on that, filling out each portion felt right. And then there was a little more culling that happened when we did some testing too.
Yeah.
And then the writing of the recipes. My mom, when she does her classes, she does
I do outlines.
outlines, yeah, which we've only recently agreed that
Which
they're
when
called
I do
outlines.
have,
when she first gave them to me, they were just the recipes. But in truth, they were not tested. They were just like, these are all the ingredients. These are most of the steps, and they're meant for people to take notes on. But they're not like no one has tested them. It's just my mom's memory. She dictates her recipes because she refuses to type, to learn how to type. She dictates her recipes to my younger brother, who is really a dream of a man for being willing to do this, because he does have another job. He is an assistant professor at the Naval War College, which takes up a lot of his time. But somehow he's still my mother's secretary for free, which is insane. But he does that. A very convincing woman. But the rub in our recipe, like working with your mother, anyone's mother or son, is not an easy. No, there's a reason there aren't a lot of mother-son cookbooks out there. Both mothers and sons are smarter than we are. Our process has generally been pretty smooth, with the exception of recipe testing, which was quite violent, I'd say. So that was tough.
Well, I was reading in your newsletter that you were saying your approach to recipe writing is very scientific, whereas yours is maybe less formal and designed for people to take notes, which makes sense if people are in cooking classes. How do you reconcile that for the book to create recipes that people can follow without you there?
Please. Please. How do we reconcile? I love that. I don't actually know. I don't know how to reconcile.
I'll be working on it.
Yeah.
Well, it was not easy. Auyon wanted visual cues, time cues. So when we were doing recipe testing, it was a very frustrating experience because and then the measuring. I learned my cooking. I did learn it here in this country, but at the same time, my mom-in-law, my grandmother, but nobody measures. You just put a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and you just do it, right? But when we were writing the book, we just had to measure. And we had some...
That's one of the first times she said we had to measure. In the past, it was Auyon made me do this thing. I'm really pleased. You took some ownership.
For
that was very...
a month and a half,
Very
we've been
impressive.
doing this book tour. I guess it just rubbed on me to say because yes, it is not easy to say we. It's easier to say I.
Yeah.
But
We said a lot of very mean things to one another. I was called a troll on multiple accounts.
But I'll tell you a story. That recipe is not in the book. It didn't make the cut. So we were doing this chicken recipe, and it's called tandoori chicken, which is chicken that you roast in a clay oven. Of course, we were not going to do it in the clay oven. We were just going to do it in the regular electric gas oven that we have in the house. So for that, you have to get your yogurt thick. You can't use Greek yogurt because Greek yogurt kind of breaks down when it is heated. It breaks down into solid and liquid. So you can't use Greek yogurt. You have to use the regular grocery store yogurt. Then you hang it in a muslin cloth so that all the water drips out, and what you get is a nice thick yogurt. And with that, you kind of marinate chicken, and then it has to be marinated for 24 hours. And then you bake it and then garnish it with these marinated onions in lemon juice and a blend of spices that we call chaat masala. And so I had done everything. This was about 6:15 in the evening, and we were going to have that same chicken for dinner after this recipe testing was done. So I did everything, measured everything. It was perfect. And then just at the last minute, when I had to garnish it with that chaat masala, which is like a powder, instead of measuring it, I just took a handful because I know how much to use. And I was sprinkling it. In walks Auyon. He said, "Oh, did you measure?" I said, "No." Guess what? He said, "We have to do the whole recipe again." I cried. I cried because I thought all this time that I spent doing this whole thing, and now we have to redo the whole recipe again. Oh, it was so frustrating.
Wasn't the only time she cried either, folks.
And then
How many times did you cry?
question.
No.
I didn't cry that many times with recipes. I got very frustrated. We yelled often. I think my mom cried. My mom both cried and yelled because she could multitask. I think I was only on the yells.
And that's not in the cookbook. You see?
There's
That,
the
that,
tandoori chicken didn't make
that
it.
chicken is not.
No.
But there is other chicken recipes that are where we make the chicken tikkas. This is boneless chicken where we actually, and then you make it into butter chicken. So
Yeah, but that one didn't make it in. But it was not a. There was a lot of like the way the newsletter that Jackie referenced. We're not doing any social media for this tour, which is a terrible business decision and a great life decision for me. I'm having a great time not on social media for it, but instead we are roaming around. This is our. We're in the midst of a 40-stop tour, and thank you all for being here also. I'm otherwise was writing a newsletter about the process on Substack, which is a newsletter platform. It's free. One of the installments in the newsletter is called At Noon We Fight. And it's basically how within our recipe testing, we built in time for altercations so that we could just get through it. For probably a couple months, 3 times a week, we were working. We'd start at 10 a.m. We'd work for a couple hours. We'd have a blowout fight most days. We'd have to leave the kitchen, and then we'd come back together at 3 p.m. to finish the thing out. Not feeling great, but good enough to do it. And that is how we just forced our way through it. And now I think by the end of it, you started measuring, you were measuring things on your own, like an adult. It was great.
I have to tell you that every recipe in this book has been tested 5 times at least. We had my students, Auyon's friends, they all said they wanted to do it. So we had about 100 people who were sent 5 recipes each, and they all tested, or whatever number tested, and then they all gave their notes of what was perfect, what they had to change a little, or we had to change a little. And so those were valuable suggestions that we incorporated then into our recipes and then retested after everybody else had tested. So you don't know how many times we did it. And it was so some of you who are moms probably also understand, we don't hold things. You forget, and you move on, right? So I've forgotten. I think it was a great experience. I do laugh about it now. And I don't think many moms have that kind of opportunity to be sharing that time with their sons. And now we are touring, the 2 of us together. I mean, it has been such a wonderful journey. We did the Northeast, we went to the West Coast, and now we are in the Midwest. Tomorrow we go back home, but we have events lined up tomorrow for the next 5 days. And then we get, not next 5 days in Kansas City. Then we fly back to Indianapolis for some conference, I don't know. And then finally,
I'm managing the tour. She's just floating around.
I'm just told where to go.
How would you have measured the chaat masala that is sprinkled?
I think it ended up being 2 teaspoons, but just the standard volume for small amounts of powder. I think what I was looking for.
So could you have guessed it and moved on?
We could have guessed it. That would have been my
That is
mother's.
exactly what I was thinking, just like you, but you wouldn't listen to me.
Yeah, I think it wasn't my idea to write a book. I cook a lot. I don't like measuring anything, and I don't measure most things when I'm cooking. But when I'm writing a cookbook and my name's going on it, that's gonna be nice.
I agree with you.
Yeah. I was running
It has to be measured, but
totally. No, I was running like a lab. In a past life, I did biology research, and not using that now as a musician and writer, but it does come up. Sometimes it rears its head, and it's that was valuable. My mother also is formerly a physician, so at some point she had to be precise about stuff, but she has since lost that and is flying free. So I'm very pleased that she's so free with all this stuff. But that was her vote every time was why don't we just guess, and I wasn't comfortable with it.
Do you just get the spice mixture, or do you mix spices?
No,
together?
that you get in a box. That is a ready-made masala that you buy at the Indian market, and it's called chaat masala. And so it was a ready-made thing.
Yeah, we have a recipe for it in the book, but in the book we do note that we more often than not buy one at the store than we do make it. But we have a recipe for feeling plugging.
Yeah. So for folks in the Midwest, which you're also in the Midwest, there are a lot of maybe new ingredients and interesting new recipes. Folks, do you have recommendations for places to start if we're picking up the cookbook?
Yeah.
What are the
Sure. Yeah, we have some easier recipes, and then of course, I know everybody gets kind of intimidated by Indian cooking because we have so many ingredients. But I always tell my students that if you can get all the ingredients out that the recipe calls for and line them up in the order in which they go into the dish, it's so easy to cook. You will never feel intimidated or disheartened by a recipe. But we do have some easier recipes where there are maybe 3-4 ingredients. And one of them is a corn recipe. There is a watermelon recipe that is my original. There's a Brussels sprout recipe that I call masala Brussels sprouts that has got 3-4 ingredients. There are several rice recipes that are just easy to cook because you can use it as an accompaniment, not just for the Indian food, but even for Western food. And so there are dessert recipes that, of course, are not exactly, some of them are truly Indian, and then there are some that have, because since the British ruled India, they are kind of have an Anglo influence. And
we also have, we got to work with a really fun illustrator, but this is a spice shopping Q&A for so we recommend, our book is not quick and easy Indian. There are many better, if that's what you're looking for, there are many books that are going to serve your needs better. We recommend getting spices at the Indian store, which is not, especially for those of you who aren't Indian, not efficient. And yeah, maybe not even pleasant some of the times. Like when I walk in, they can tell that something's a little funny with me and I get disrespected as well. But we recommend it still because it feels you are in it's another cultural, sort of a way to access the culture in another way. So highly recommend that. We also have a bunch of online retailers in the back. There's, if you don't have access to a store, in St. Louis, of course, too, but a bunch of online retailers we like that we recommend buying stuff from. Also, if some of these spices are unfamiliar, one of my favorite bits to write in the book was the spice glossary, which I included so most all the ingredients in the book that might be a little unfamiliar, included some botanical and historical context and ways to use it outside of Indian cooking. Because our dream for this book is that you buy spices for the dishes that you want to make out of here, and then you use those spices for stuff that has nothing to do with this book. And that's the best way to sort of build up a vocabulary with those spices. So
you want to give some.
yeah, totally. So there's tamarind chutney, which is not a single ingredient, but tamarind is lovely in chutneys. It's also really lovely on vanilla ice cream. Yes, on vanilla ice cream. There's I really like so coriander seeds have a very citrusy, lemony flavor to them, and they're of course used in plenty of savory cooking. For those of you who go to hip coffee shops, you would have seen them in lemon scones with coriander seed. I really like toasting coriander seeds, crushing them, and putting them on top of hot fudge sundaes. The lemon of the coriander and the chocolate is really lovely. So that's the world of stuff. That spice glossary was a lot of fun to write, just because it's sort of ways to experiment with those spices, so that you build up some facility with them outside of Indian cooking. And so yeah, we tried not to or this book. There's no we didn't sort of remove anything because it was too exotic. It was more that this is how we cook, but here are ways you can then play to build up your vocabulary.
Yeah, that kind of answered my next question too, which was how do you want people to use this book if they go home with it? What do you want people to how do you want people to experience it if it's not quick and easy weeknight cooking? How is it best?
Actually, we had in the Northeast some of the restaurants. Those chefs were Auyon's friends, and when they got the book, they wanted to host some dinners, and so there were 6 of them, and we told them or Auyon told them actually, that you can either follow the recipes as they are and make an Indian meal, or you can do a riff of these recipes. So one of them did an Indian dinner and nailed it so well. She would serve, her restaurant was Japanese and Spanish, but she made Indian dinner for the group that night. There were 60 people, and it was amazing. The other restaurants, the chefs in the other restaurants, they did their own take on some of these recipes. Like one of them had saffron risotto and made an Indian curry called Rogan Josh and put it on saffron risotto. It was to die for. It was so good. So there are things that we want everybody to, you do exactly as you want from the book, or just do your take on it and make it whatever your family loves to have. And with the guidance of this on either making the sides kind of Indianish or making the meat Indianish, and then serving it with whatever sides you want or with the rice preparations that we have in the book. And it is the restaurants just did an awesome job of their take on the recipes.
Yeah, and I think something I really like doing is just reading cookbooks. I recognize that's not a thing that everyone does. But yeah, my hope for this book is that that's the thing that more people do with it. So some of those essays I mentioned, like this is an illustrated essay on, it's called the 70-year-old roti quesadilla, which is, so in the early 20th century, a bunch of Punjabi men landed up in the US and they closed the borders before their wives or partners made it over, or prospective wives and partners made it over. And as a result, there were these cross-cultural marriages between Punjabi men and Mexican women, because you were not allowed to marry people outside of your own race. But the government at that point decided that they were both brown, so it was fine. That was the same race. And you had these cross-cultural marriages, so like a web of Punjabi Mexican families from like across the Southwest. And there was one restaurant that had both Punjabi and Mexican food, and they had their one dish that was crossover was a roti quesadilla, is what they called it. And so there's like a brief history of that. This is a brief history of lemonade in India, which like I did not know that. I was very confused as a child when we went to visit India, and we were served lemonade. Oh yeah, totally. We were served. You all should feel free to leave at any point. Oh, I appreciate, but also like no need. Like we're just appreciate that you're here, but also all good. Like there's more pressure on you as audience members, given how here you are. But we're happy you're here, but no need to apologize. All good.
This is delightful.
Oh, thanks. There's something nice about intimate shows. But I was very confused as a kid why I was drinking this very American drink all across India. Like I was being served, or like in all these family homes. And then learned later while researching the book that both sugar and citrus have a history that is intertwined with the subcontinent. So most of the citrus that we eat, like grapefruits, tangerines, oranges, lemons, limes, all come from a few ancestral citrus varieties. And the progenitors of those citrus trees emerged out of the Himalayas like 8 million years ago. So the foothills of the Himalayas. So the lemon's pretty tied to the subcontinent. And then sugarcane was first domesticated in Papua New Guinea, which is a large island off of Australia. But the technology or the discovery of how to turn sugarcane into crystal sugar was discovered in India. So both of those ingredients, if anyone has a claim to lemonade, India has a pretty strong one, I'd say, with those two things. And both the terms sugar and candy are Sanskrit derivatives. So those trace back to Sanskrit words. Yes, which is the thing I didn't know. So that's the sort of, like, my hope is that even if you don't feel like doing a more involved cooking session, that's stuff that's fun to read. And we had, our illustrator was a deep joy to work with. It was, I sort of had envisioned a lot of these illustrations while doing the writing. Partially to like lighten for levity, just because some of them are slightly more academic, and he like made them happen in such a wonderful way. So it was very fun.
I did want to point out, so every section of the book that is separated by these pages, so our entire family, so when I teach my cooking classes, my whole family is involved. We have 3 sons, my husband, and myself. So I'm the only one doing the class. I'm the one person that they see, but there are all these people are working in the background. So this is my husband is a retired cardiologist, but now he's a full-time artist. And so this is his artwork on every section where it is separated by, and this is our youngest son, the one who does the typing for me. This is his work. And Auyon, of course, has done the writing for the book. And then our oldest one is my shopping deputy. So he does all the, and then our photography was done by our by a very dear person who has now become a friend. He's Japanese American, and he does food photography. So he came from Milwaukee to Kansas City just to do the photography, and we did 100 recipes in 9 days. And I was one tired woman by the time we finished, because we have all these beautiful pictures were all taken by him. Do you see these? They're really, because one thing my students requested was, please include a photograph with every recipe. So because of the illustrations, this is my corn chart that I was talking of. This is the spiced watermelon. This is masala Brussels sprouts. This is lentil. This is chicken do piazza. This is jeera rice.
Something that was important, like my mom, I really wanted illustration in the book. Those of you who read a lot of cookbooks know Samin Nusrat's Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, excellent cookbook. The illustrations in that are so great and like really light. And so that's a very text heavy book, but it feels very light because of how many illustrations are in it. And that illustrator, Wendy McNaughton, does beautiful work. So like for both instruction, for humor, for levity, like illustration does a beautiful job. And for our book, if that felt like the appropriate, I also love comics, so that was felt like an important thing. But my mom really wanted photos, and she gets what she wants. So, but figuring out how to balance those two, like there are very few books I've seen that have both illustration and photography on the same spread, where those two elements don't take away from one another. Like it has to be designed and planned very carefully. And our photography and illustration schedules were very different. Our photography happened in 9 days, illustrations over the course of several months. So our solution, which this is a bit of context here, is the book that we got to make is the book of our dreams. We had to compromise almost not at all on anything because of the publishing deal we signed, wherein we took on the risk, we paid for the printing, etc. But we were allowed to do pretty much what we wanted. And part of the thing, one thing that was important to me was to have the illustration and photography be separate so that they can both be enjoyed but not interact with one another as much. So we have, for those of you who also know about, look at a lot of old cookbooks, that was a very standard thing, is color plates in the middle of the book. So there was no color anywhere else, but only there was a photo section in the middle, and then the rest of the book was just text. We, of course, have color across the book, but the photos are all in the middle only to keep them isolated from the illustration. So you have sort of a photo index, and then the illustration remains the primary visual currency on either side, which, really grateful that our publisher allowed us to do that, because that's not a standard move in cookbooks.
Yeah, that's incredible. And then kind of a fun peek into the making of the cookbook, which I'm always interested in. I think it's always fun to learn how things are created, because we get this final product. We're like, this is beautiful. Look at all the illustrations and the photos, great. But it takes so many years. Were there any steps along the way in like the illustration or the photos or publishing the process that really surprised you, or were fun, I don't know, tidbits of peek behind the scenes to share about the making of a cookbook?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like as I mentioned, my day job is a musician and my band. So I'm making an album is a similar sort of scope, in like an extremely large scope process to like making a book. So for that reason, like I was expecting a lot of logistical stuff to come up, which it did, but it was all relatively straightforward. One of the things that I found most surprising, and I think this is not just cookbooks, but with our cookbook. So I had assumed we worked with a designer, and so we have you end up when you start working with the designer, you have a manuscript that has all the text, and you have a vision maybe for where like a few of the illustrations are going to go. And my assumption, and also so most books, cookbooks and otherwise, are built in signatures. Are you familiar with signatures? That's basically the cheapest way to print is or a way to keep costs down is things are printed on very large pages and then cut into pieces. And so usually the total number of pages in a book is going to be divisible by 4 or often 12 or 16, but basically like that's the signature size. So you can print 12 pieces, 12 smaller pages on one large page, and that allows you, as opposed to doing something weird like divisible by 13 or 15, but basically it has to do with the geometry of a large page. So we were told that our signature size was going to be 16. So we knew from early on, because of the dimensions of the book, that our total page count was going to be divisible by 16. And I was under the impression that what would happen was our designer, and of course, like the way that text lays out is pretty different, right? So there's so many different ways to write a recipe. You can have these 2 columns, you can have the head note up top and the ingredients below, and then the steps going after that. There's like a lot of different ways to put it together. So my assumption was that what would happen was we sent over the manuscript, and our designer would start from the top of the book and then just start like chunking things into pages, and then wherever they landed, they would get close to, they would figure out where the closest multiple of 16 is, and that would be the length of the book. Instead, what happens is they design one chapter, and then if that chapter is like X pages, and they're going to be 12 chapters, they say like, all right, it's going to be 12X signatures, and then they like take the whole book and try to squeeze it into that box, because they need to have the number, like total page number of the book, due to like publishing stuff. They need to have that number well before it's actually done for like sales purposes and distribution and buying. So it's almost like if you have like a giant room of packing peanuts, you pull out like some of the packing peanuts, put them into a box, and then like guess how many other boxes it's going to take to fill it, and then just like commit to those number of boxes and like either pack it or squish it, or like, so as a result you'll have like we did, and the way that illustration fits into that is that then I didn't have like these illustrations. I didn't know what was going to be one page, what was going to be half, what was going to be whatever. And so we did illustrations, and then it turns out there were a few more blank pages that were just like floating around, because you also need chapters to end, on a spread. You can't have it. You don't want a chapter to end like, and like if you have, especially if you have those beautiful spreads that we have, where if it ends like this, you need your chapter to end on this page, not on this page. So you just end up with these blank pages floating around. And so we had to like fill in. So one of my favorite illustrations that we have in the book now was a fill-in, where I was told that we needed to have an extra page. And so I had our illustrator do a drawing of ginger, garlic, and nacho cheese Doritos, which I was really pleased about as a child and as an adult. I think nacho cheese Doritos sprinkled on top of a dal is a great idea. Rice and dal. And so that was that now is like one of the early, it's a filler page, but now it's like a pretty important illustration of the book. So yeah, like the whole process of how publishing works, we got to have a strong hand in it. But it was fascinating to see like how things are put together. And I don't think that's limited to cookbooks. I think cookbooks are a weird one because of how much visual stuff there is, where they like fill in different amounts. But so if you're curious about more of that stuff, I did the newsletter I was writing. If you look up Heartland Masala HQ, it's a free newsletter on Substack. But that has a lot of like the process of building illustration, photography, working with your mother, and that world of things. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, totally.
Thank you. I know we've been interjecting with questions throughout, which is wonderful. Does anyone have any additional questions?
Sure. So
Yeah.
like 8 years ago, he was your favorite kid, and now,
And now-
8 years later, how does he rank with his brothers?
It's still my favorite.
Oh, there you go.
It's a
Do you want to
triple
say that?
time. It's a triple time first. I'm quite sure.
He's such a good son. It wouldn't be easy to tour if I wasn't blessed. And we've been just the two of us. 3 weeks we were doing the Northeast and the West Coast. And he has planned everything. Our publicist did too. But his main concern is that his mother should stay well. And I have to tell you, I'm very grateful that my son thinks I'm as young as he is, that I can sleep in a different bed every night.
You've been a champ. It is exhausting. It's been, yeah.
I thought, oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No,
I asked an Indian friend of mine to cook a dinner for 8 for a fundraiser, and she did it. And afterwards, she said that was way too much work. So this year we're having it again. And she said, I'll do a cooking class. It'll be less work. Nina Mukherjee, first to now. Do you know Nina Mukherjee? She's in Colombia. She's a Dom. And
Yeah.
Dom,
Oh, I'm a Dom too. Yeah.
So am I.
Oh, I know.
There was a bunch of us that were going to come, but it was a terrible night. So even though you don't have the representation here of the Doms, all 50 of us have been emailing about you.
Oh,
And I
thank
got,
you.
yeah, some of them said they already ordered your book,
Thank
but
you.
some asked me
Thank
to
you.
pick it up.
Well, thank you. Please thank them. Thank you.
Okay, Nina's in Colombia. I don't know if she ever gets to
I
know Nina.
don't think I have ever seen her in Kansas City,
No, I don't know if she gets there. very
No.
often.
but we are the Kansas chapter.
Right. Oh, yeah, very
Well, it would be Kansas, Missouri, so I'm not sure.
We should.
No,
We would.
that is
It would be
so
great to. It'd be great to drop our lines. We'll get her
Yeah,
book
she
over.
also
Okay.
written cookbooks.
Cool. More fun.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, it is not less work to do a cook.
This is huge.
Yeah.
Hers is not nearly as big. Hers is more autobiographical, with the recipes through.
Cool. I'm
Mhm.
excited to check her out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, please tell her thank you.
And I'm gonna tell her that you did it how many years in a row? The dinners?
Oh, I did 4 years,
4 years? Okay.
till I was lured into the cooking thing. And then I've just been, I teach every week. I do a class every week almost, unless I have to go out of town. But it's not less work because it takes me, my shopping deputy and I have to shop first, and I have a different menu every weekend. So we shop, and then I do my prep work on Saturdays. Sunday, my entire Sunday, I generally teach on Sundays from 3 to 6. My entire Sunday is laying out it's a demo. So I have to lay out all the spices, get all my pots and pans ready. I lay the table because they all eat after the class. So I have 15 people in each class.
How do I sign up for a class?
You just have to let me know, and I would be delighted to put you on my email list, sir.
Okay.
And you all drive down. I will do a special class for
Oh,
The
we'll
Doms
come-
of-
We'll come to Kansas City. You're
Yeah.
traveling enough right now.
No, you come to Kansas City, and I will do a special private group for you all.
Oh, thank
I would
you.
be delighted to do that.
Just curious, what's it, Tom?
The Dames de Scoffier. It's a philanthropic organization of women that are in the food, beverage, and hospitality business. We raise money for scholarships and micro grants to encourage women to enter the field.
To encourage women to join the culinary field. So,
It's very cool. We've had it's been fun to like I've reached out to all the DOMS groups, and it's been like a lot of support. So it's been cool.
So in San Francisco too, they had come out and supported us, and we were just so delighted. So thank you. Thank you, thank
Sure.
you.
Like I said, everyone,
Tell me your name.
this is Moira.
Moira
Ross. Yeah. So this
I will
is,
take your number.
there's so many of them are so happy, thrilled for you.
Well, thank
Everyone
you.
knows your name now in your book.
Thank you.
Much
Thank
appreciated.
That's
Thank
wonderful.
you.
I want to mention two things. One is that first, apologies if you bought the book thinking you bought a whole book. You bought almost a whole book. There's one page that is missing from this book that we were not allowed to include, but there's a solution. So the very first illustration that our illustrator drew, that I was also very excited about, is a map, which is pretty key. When you talk about something as broad as Indian cooking, you're talking about something as broad as the cooking of Europe. It is very, very broad. And so in region to region, things change massively. So it was important to us to have a map. But once we had the map finished and we sent it to our publisher to show them, they said that we can't include it in the book. And the reason is that it's a map of India. It has all of India's borders. The northern border of India is disputed between Pakistan, India, and China. Our book we printed in China, and our Chinese printer, and even on the map we wrote. Our illustrators circled it with pink ovals and had a little lightning bolt and said, these borders are disputed. But that was not enough for the Chinese government. They said that if we wanted to include the map, we would have to remove the top, go topless, and that felt like not the right move for our map. So we kept it intact, and it's a print your own map. So it's a free PDF you can download from that. If you look up Heartland Masala HQ, that newsletter I've been talking about, one of the recent posts is print your own map. you can download it for free and then print it off at a local bookshop, and it'll be the right size to just slip into the book. That's one thing. The other thing is that we are friends with the folks at Harney and Sons Tea, which is quite fun, and we got to make this Heartland Masala chai, which I didn't think to bring a point of sale, but if you're welcome to pay me 15 in cash or Venmo me or steal it. But if you do steal it, make sure if you do steal it, you have to promise to share it. Like talk to all your friends. That's over here.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to share about
Well, we're
about the
just
book?
so grateful that you guys are here.
Yeah, thank you.
so
Really
much.
appreciate it.
It is wonderful to be in St. Louis. I'm glad we remember which city we are in. Because, yesterday we were this morning we were in Indianapolis. Last night we were there, and then we were in Milwaukee, Madison, Chicago twice, and then Toledo, Ohio, Minneapolis.
You can find all of this on the newsletter. Let's do one. Or you can have my mom if you want to keep reciting. One of people's favorite things.
So we'd be delighted to find you all want us.
Yeah. If you haven't got your book yet, please do at the desk. I'm going to grab some pens and we will sign.
I have.
Totally. Yeah.